journalism was a thing that I really wanted to do because I could get to spend my days, unlike now answering questions, I could spend my days asking people questions and getting to talk to them about the most interesting, intimate parts of their belief systems and their families. What a bubble, I live in still to this day. I mean, in the sense that I kind of still live in a very similar community to what I grew up in, and also the extent to which most people are also kind of living in their own bubbles. And that I hope that, sometimes the things I write kind of may help bring people out of that. I write a lot about child welfare. I am worried that we're taking too much of a hands-off approach when it comes to that issue, and that there's a big push, both, I think, among progressives and among sort of more libertarian-minded folks to sort of get the government out of child welfare as much as possible. For some people, they say that's about fixing racial disparities. For other people, it's about cutting budgets. For other people, it's about, just basically getting the government out of our lives. But I think, child maltreatment is always going to be with us, and, there has to be some government involvement to make sure that kids who are at real risk are protected. Lives Cut Short is a project that the American Enterprise Institute just launched with UNC Chapel Hill. The idea is to document child maltreatment fatalities. We're worried that a lot of those fatalities are not being properly understood and recognized. For instance, a number of deaths in this country that have occurred where a child's been exposed to, an infant or toddler has been exposed to drugs, has died as a result of ingesting methamphetamines. Those are getting classified as accidents in some cases, and while I'm sure it's not purposeful that happened in most cases, obviously it does imply that there's something else going on there. And if we classify those deaths as accidents, we're not really understanding how to prevent those kinds of tragedies from occurring in the future. We're not looking at systems, not just child welfare systems, but medical professionals, law enforcement, all sorts of other government agencies that we want to be able to play a role in preventing those kinds of tragedies. Several years ago, I wrote a book about social media and screen time. Parents, I think, increasingly understand the risks to their kids of all of the screen time, all of the social media that they're consuming. I'm very much in favor of the bell-to-bell ban. Even if they are on their phones until the second the bell rings and the second after the bell rings, just giving them the relief of 8 hours of not having that, I think, is super important. And it's not just the phones, though. The question is, I think we need to be asking is, during those 8 hours, how much are kids on screens? Does everything have to be taught on screen? Again, ask yourself, maybe there is an advantage to using this particular, computer program, but also maybe there's not, and maybe there's no reason to introduce it just because, a tech company gave you a hot deal on it. And so once you get the buy-in of a community, and schools are really in a unique position to do this, once you get the buy-in of a whole community, your child can feel more comfortable detaching themselves from this appendage that they have grown recently. I think the question about higher education is that it has to be had with each kid. What is it that you think you are going to get out of this? I think up until now, the answer has been, for most kids, a higher salary. And it is true that over time, your earnings will increase, if you have a 2 or 4-year degree, on the whole. But the question is, what will it take for you to get that 2 or 4-year degree? So is the field that you've picked something that you not only think is going to help you later in life, but also is it something that you think you're going to follow through on? And maybe you're looking instead for a 2-year degree or a degree that's more vocational in nature. And I think we need to be having more honest conversations with kids. I recently did a piece looking at the drop in enrollment. The drop for men was much more significant, and the drop for white men was actually much more significant. So why was that the case? Maybe white men are not feeling very welcome on college campuses these days, and with good reason. I mean, I think for a long time, of course, the gender divide has been in favor of women on college campuses. Some schools, it's 3-1, and women are constantly being sort of held up. Women in STEM fields, women in this, women in that. And, a man who walks onto campus might get the impression you don't really care if he's there. And I think similarly, the sort of focus on DEI has given the impression to anyone who does not fall into one of the favored racial groups now that this is not really an environment for them. And colleges, both that care about their integrity and that care about their bottom line might want to rethink some of these messages. Institutional religion has obviously been on the decline for some time in America. In terms of the overall trend, I think this is just one of those things where once you lose that kind of religious identity, it's hard to get back. There's pretty clear, even causal, not just correlational evidence, but some even causal evidence that suggests that both the set of the belief system that provides kids with a sense of purpose in life, a sense that there is a higher power, a sense that there are rules that we have to follow, that contributes to mental health in addition to the affiliation part and the sense of community. I think there's nothing like the nuclear family and the bringing back marriage and bringing up children in stable nuclear families that is going to be able to fix so many of our problems. But it's really hard for me to imagine how that horse gets back in the barn at this point. On a more superficial level, like I said, just somehow impressing upon people that politics is not the most important thing in the world and that there's so many other things that we agree on and that we should be able to talk about, that I hope that somehow people get that message after the last few years.